Welcome, everybody. This is the final episode of the Lil-Big Bible Studies series.
Yeah.
We've been studying the lineage of Jesus, and for the final episode about Jesus, we have Rachael
Yay!
joining us.
Yay!
Yay! And Rachael is my Bible study leader, formerly my Bible study leader from college.
Yeah.
And it was like 3 years, I think.
3 or 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because the 4th year, I think that you moved with your husband.
Oh, okay.
And then, remember, and then we got the other Rachael.
The other Rachael came. I was like, oh, okay. Cool. Another Rachael.
It was funny. She came in for the last year.
Yeah, okay. I forgot about that.
Yeah, but it was still a long time
3 years
that we were
was
together.
good.
And I was
Every week.
it was very important to me. Like, I remember, this is a very vivid memory for me, because in college there was a lot going on. And my freshman year, I remember one of our studies got canceled for some reason, and I cried.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I cried.
Yeah, that was a powerful year.
Yeah.
That first year, we had Danielle and me doing it together, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't that the first year?
Yeah, Danny. Yeah.
Yes, and it was so fun.
Mm-hmm.
The group was so fun. Every week I was like on fire. There was like 15 girls.
Yeah, well, I remember
something.
it dwindled down through the
Yeah.
years, like, you know, because eventually, like, on the 3rd year, it was like a very, I think, it's intimate group of us.
Yeah.
But that first year, do you remember were we at Danny's place? I don't know, but
We
I just
were at
remember
Danny's house.
there was like, I feel like there was like 20 of us.
There were so many people.
On
It
the
was so fun.
floors.
And it was fun to have a co-leader in Danny.
Yeah.
I feel like Danny and I really vibed, which was cool and doesn't always happen.
You guys were the perfect match
Yeah.
for each other.
Yeah, I was like, can we just do this for the rest of our lives?
I know.
Yeah.
It was
But
so
anyway,
much
it was fun.
And I loved being around all, like, just being in a safe group of women. That's been, like, a through line in my life. Is, like, I think that's what started it, is, like, I feel a lot of safety with women. And it's become, like, some of my most important relationships. Last
I think so,
Sunday,
yeah.
I went on a hike. I actually went on a date, and then I went on a hike. But I went on a hike, and she's like a fairly new friend. We've only been on one other coffee date together, but at the end of our hike, we were sitting in her car, and she prayed over me.
Oh.
And she was like, I don't know why, but as she's praying, she's like, I just feel like you have a heart for women.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, in my mind, I was like, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think
awesome.
that I feel like, you know, in this world, there's kind of, you know, there can be like jealousy. There can be some tension with women, you know, maybe competition. I don't feel like it should be that way.
Oh my gosh. It's so funny you say that because this morning, okay, so Aaliyah traveled here yesterday
Yeah.
from LA to Wenatchee, and then she woke up at 4 a.m. to travel here, and then we all slept medium, not great. And then we woke up at 6 a.m. this morning,
Yeah.
went to my neighbor's house to work out, and it's funny you say that because he's lived next to me, and I've had a jealousy and like a hard time because of my own insecurities around her. And then Dan and I had my husband and I had this conversation, how because I have another friend who comes around a lot who's single.
Yeah.
And I was like, I never want to treat another woman any way because of my own problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like any negative way.
Yeah.
Because of my own problem. Which
Yeah.
I just wasn't, it wasn't like I was rude, but I wasn't
Yeah.
open.
Right.
I wasn't like
As warm.
inviting.
Yeah.
Because I felt insecure.
Right.
And I said that to Dan. I said it like 4 times. I will never treat a woman negatively because of my own insecurities. And that opened the door for me and her.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
So like 2 weeks later, I felt like the Lord was like, you should ask. Well, maybe not. I don't know. I felt like I should ask her
Yeah.
to work out with me. And it just opened this huge door
Oh, Rachael.
to like intimate relationship with her where I
Yeah.
know things that are going on in her life
Yeah.
that are super important.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's no division there for
Yeah.
us anymore, her
Yeah.
and I. And it was all me.
That's so
You
beautiful.
know, it was all me because
Yeah.
I was like protective of
Yeah.
my husband or,
Yeah.
you know, these things that like,
Yeah.
she is only a threat if I make her that
Right.
in my mind.
Right.
And I just, anyways, that may be really personal to talk about.
No, I think it's so
that person right there,
Yeah.
but it was, it's funny how I was going to tell you that earlier.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
We just started working out this year because of my problem. You know?
Rachel, that is so powerful and
Yeah.
vulnerable. Thank you so much for sharing
Yeah.
that. In my past relationship, I struggled a lot with jealousy and feeling protective of the person that I was with. And it came out toward, like, his best friend. Because he had, like, a woman friend who was, like, he was very close to. And I would just be very, like, you know, stiff around her. You know, I wasn't as warm. I wasn't as welcoming because I was jealous of her. I was jealous that she had her life together. I was jealous that she owned her home, that she always showed up to church looking, like, fabulous and just, like, wearing the things that I wished I could afford, you know? And it was, like, yeah, it was not healthy, and it wasn't good, and it was actually quite toxic to myself.
I just have to work on, like, love for people. And, like,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
You know? And, like, I can't get in the way of what God wants to do in love.
Yeah.
For that person.
Yeah.
You know? Because,
Yeah.
it's healing.
Yeah. You guys don't know Rachel yet, and
Yeah.
I'd like you to get to know Rachel. So maybe
yeah.
I could just ask you, like, what's going on in your life right now?
Yeah. So we live in Wenatchee, my husband and I, and we have 5 kids, and they are between 8 and 1, and so our youngest is 14 months, and it's a very busy house. Aliyah's staying with us for the weekend, and so she's experiencing it firsthand. I love the Lord. My husband teaches at our church once a month, and we're very involved in our church. We're very passionate about neighbors.
That's
very
good.
passionate about children.
It's good.
And our church.
It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're passionate about those things because they're so important.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's sometimes, you know, we'll go out and we'll do great big things for people who aren't even in our closest, you know, circle, like our families and the people who live right next to us. It's like, why are we stepping over the people who are right there and they need love and attention? And
Yeah, I feel like the Lord plants you in a place on purpose. And Dan and I feel that way. Like, wherever we go, we feel like the Lord's put us there for those people we see, you know? And so he hopefully can use us in those scenarios if we don't have those things guarding us, you know, or whatnot. So it's a very big, important thing to us.
absolutely.
Yeah. I stay home. I don't work. I stay home and kind of homeschool my kids, part-time homeschool my kids.
Yeah.
And part-time they go to school, and
Yeah. It's a big job, Rachel. I mean, you have 5 kids, so
very big.
you're busy.
It's so busy.
Yes.
Yes. I feel like this weekend is very relaxed because we're kind of intentionally doing that. And we do take a Sabbath every Saturday, which is today. So it's really a peaceful day.
Yeah.
We kind of get a little stir crazy, honestly.
Yeah.
But it's a busy life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Busy but slow, like we were talking about.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, because we went to the water yesterday. What is the name of that lake?
It's the Columbia River.
Oh, it is. I'm from Washington, you guys.
I don't think I would have known that if I hadn't lived here.
Okay.
No, you're good.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we went to the water. It's freezing cold. Rachel's trying to get me to, what is it called?
Cold plunge.
Cold plunge. And I will. I actually told myself this morning, I said, I'm jumping in there next time we go. Yeah. I woke up this morning with so much, like, I'm jumping in there.
Woo!
I don't care.
Yeah, you're going to feel so good.
Yeah. So, yeah. But we went to the water, and she was like, it's kind of like a slow but fast life, right? Like, slow but busy. And I said, yeah, it kind of feels that way.
Yeah.
Slow but busy.
Like, there's lots of needs all the time, but we're not really doing anything. You know? It's like we get to lead it, whatever we want to do, but at the same time, we have to do the things that are necessary. So,
Right.
food, medicine, baths, those things all come up, and there's 5 of them, so it just ends up being a lot.
Yeah.
School, you know, so, but, like, we don't have to do anything.
Totally.
As far as, like, I'm not, like, going to work or things like that. Like, I get to make the schedule in general, you know, so, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that's my life.
Yeah, thank you for that update. You have a great life, and I'm glad that I get to be a part of it for
thank
like a few days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now you need to update
Yeah.
people.
For the past week, actually the past 2 weeks I was house sitting in Studio City, LA, which I live in LA, you guys know that. But typically I live with extended family, and then I got the opportunity to house sit for a friend slash former coworker. She's a producer and an actress, and anyway, she was going out of town. She said, "Hey, can you come watch my 3 cats?" I was like, "Yes," you know, which is great because then I get a whole house to myself, which I love. That means I get to practice managing a home, cleaning it, taking care of the pets, also being in the city and closer to the people who, you know, closer to my friends and stuff. Like, I'm able to make coffee dates with people and, like, meet them in 10-15 minutes.
Cool.
As opposed to having to drive an hour or, you know, 45 minutes to an hour. I have a new church that I'm a part of. I have a church home again, which is a really huge thing for me in my life because I've been feeling, quote-unquote, church homeless for the past, like, year. I left a church home, and then I was church hopping for like a year, which I didn't love because I'd wake up on a Sunday morning and be like, where am I going? I'm like, okay, I guess I'll go to this church down the street, or I'll go to this other one, but like, I don't know anyone. I just like sit there, listen to the sermon, and then leave. You know, it just felt very lonely. And I feel like the last year of my life has felt very lonely. So something that I'll say, something that I really appreciate about this service was that they did they brought 2 different people up, and they were saying, or was it just one? Anyway, they did a goodbye. There was this couple who had been a part of their church, and they were like, we're telling them we're saying goodbye to them today.
Yeah,
because
like
they're
super
moving
personal.
on.
Yeah.
They're moving on. I guess they were starting a ministry of their own or something.
Okay.
And they were like, we just want to tell them how much we love them and send them off.
Wow.
And I was like, how mature is that? To like not be like, oh, you're leaving? You know?
Yeah.
But, like, actually just being like, we're sending you off, and we appreciate you, we love you, and, like, you're going off to do another thing.
Yeah.
And I loved
so
that.
Good.
I loved that,
good.
and it resonated to me as a good place to be. Just felt safe. And then at the end, we held hands, and I really felt like the Lord said, like, it's time to settle. Like,
wow.
It's time to settle. You know, no more church hopping.
That's so good.
Yeah, and so I feel more grounded. I feel more like I have more community now.
Yeah, and you feel known probably.
I feel known, and it's been really good for my mental health. My mental health has been improving.
Yay. And
now I'm in Wenatchee with Rachael. I'm from Washington, so this is my home, but this city, this part of Washington isn't my home. So I get to explore a new place. I'm in nature. I'm with an old friend, so life is good.
Cool.
Yeah.
That is good.
Now we're going to get into studying Jesus. Yeah.
It's a big topic.
It's a big topic. It's kind of a lot of pressure. But the first thing that we're going to talk about is what convicted us about the story of Jesus. This is 1 Peter 3:15, and it talks about always being prepared to give an answer for your hope, but do it with gentleness and respect. And to me, that felt like a conviction, because I think I'm trying to, first of all, I'm more so doing it now, but there was a time where I was nervous to tell people about my hope in Jesus or my belief in Jesus. Being a Christian, like, I have quite a few friends who either aren't believers or they're kind of on the fence, you know, they're kind of like, just, yeah, so for me, I never wanted someone to feel excluded. I didn't want to put up this wall, I guess, in my friendships.
Right.
But then I wasn't really being true to who I am, right? And I wasn't really showing all of me, which is like, how can you be friends with someone if you're not showing all of you?
Yeah.
So there's that. But then also, I really like the second part of it is like the gentleness and respect. It's like you still have to have respect for people and understand that even if they're not in the same place that you are, they still deserve respect.
I think it's love and friendship that gentleness and respect are create.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think that, or come from, I guess. I'm just thinking about, like, sometimes we want to, like, I gotta say this thing.
Yeah.
And we're willing to throw out the whole friendship for it. And it's like, there's this balance that he does in that verse of like, you need to be ready to share when someone asks you about the hope that's in you, and do it with gentleness and respect. Like, he wants you to preserve that relationship,
Right.
Because people are the most important thing,
Right.
You know, those are who he calls us to love,
Right.
and so it's not it's not aggressive,
Yeah.
you know, which you can see in certain Christian cultures of the aggressiveness, and it's like, because what they're trying to do is not be ashamed of the hope, but they missed the second part of that.
Would you like to share a conviction that you had while reading about Jesus?
I was so convicted. Yeah. So the first topic of the study guide is Jesus is Lord, basically, Messiah and Lord. And so I was looking at 1 Peter, like you were, and that the whole thing, when you look at Jesus's life from birth to death and resurrection, within the lens of who he is Lord. That changes the whole life. The whole life. Because, so I looked up 1 Peter 3, so I'm going to find it in here. It says, but in your hearts set apart Christ as Lord. And I thought, why would they say that? Why would Peter say that? Set apart in your hearts Christ as Lord. What was he talking about? And so, first of all, I was thinking about the idea of lordship. Who is Lord? Right? And a lord is someone above you. And if we don't have lords in America, but a lord to them would have been someone above you, someone who has authority over you, someone who gets to say what you do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I was reading this book with my kids, and it was in Narnia, and there's this like big dark-haired guy who kidnaps these kids, and he's scary to them. And then he walks into this town, he walks up to this door to the Lord's house. This is his Lord. And it's his master. And his name's Puck. And he just crumbles. And he's like, oh, your lordship, I'm sorry. Like, and he was like all this buff guy. But then when he's around his master, he crumbles. And just that idea, like, why? So they intentionally, Peter wants us to make, and I mean, oh my gosh, you read Jesus's life after thinking about that, and it's like, oh, they call him Lord there, they call him Lord there, they call him Lord there. They're putting him above themselves. And I thought that was so cool, this passage, because first of all, like, when you set Christ as Lord, you're taking the other lords off.
That's
right?
good, yeah.
And the passage, it's so good. It says, finally, all of you live in harmony with one another. Be sympathetic. Love as brothers. Be compassionate and humble. Do not repay, this is the hard one. Do not repay evil with evil or insult with insult, but with blessing. Because to this you were called, so that you may inherit a blessing. For whoever would love life and see good days must keep his tongue from evil, his lips from deceitful speech. He must turn from evil and do good. He must seek peace and pursue it. For the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are attentive to their prayer. But the face of the Lord is against those who do evil. Who is going to harm you if you are eager to do good? But even if you should suffer for what is right, you are blessed. And then it says, do not fear what they fear. Do not be frightened. But in your heart set apart Christ as Lord. And I just thought, okay, so that's what he's talking about. He's talking about how we're supposed to live differently based on who God was, who God is, who Jesus is. We're supposed to, because we set Christ as Lord, we don't need to be frightened by what people are frightened about. Don't be frightened by what they're frightened about. Don't be frightened by suffering. Don't be frightened by insult. Live in harmony. Be humble. Like, these are all the opposite of what we want to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, when someone insults me, I'm like, well, I have a right to insult
them
you
back.
because you insulted you know, which
Yeah.
obviously everyone knows in the Bible. It says, like, what good are you?
Yeah.
What good, like, how different are you from a pagan if you do that? However, how do we do that? We do that when we say Jesus is Lord. And when Jesus is Lord, it's like, I do what you say. You know?
Yeah.
If I set him apart as Lord, then I'm like, okay, God, like, what did you say
Yeah.
I should do here in
Yeah.
this situation?
Yeah.
Did you say I should shut off my relationship with that person? Did you say I should, you know? No, it's like, no, you're Lord, so what do I do here? I repay it with not a fake blessing, real blessing. Like, I really, really want to bless you. And so anyway, I think that brought me then...
It's good. Not a fake blessing, but a real blessing.
No, real blessing. Not like a nice, what do you call that? Platitude?
Yeah.
Like a nice
I don't know that
saying?
word, but yeah.
Yeah, like, no, it's not like... It's real. It's I want good for them, you know? And, like, I want you, Lord, to bless them.
Yeah.
And I don't want my good. And anyways, yeah, those other lords, when we take the other lords, which personally I only think there's one, and I think it's us. We want to be Lord. And so that's why we respond with insult. Because it's like you just...
Totally.
I was saying this the other day, like you just threatened my lordship. I'm the boss here. I'm the one who's in charge, and you just messed with me. So now I can insult.
Yeah.
Or I can...
I have permission to strike back.
Because you just... But when God is the one Lord, we're like, what did he say to do? I need to do that.
God is the only Lord. You know, he's the only one that deserves that submission, that crumbling, that, like, men don't deserve that. You know, so we only serve one God. You know.
Well, and I think this is telling us what to do, not us what to expect from other people. Like, I think what we expect from other people is insult, suffering. Like, if you suffer for doing what's good, you know, you endure it. Like, what we should expect. Jesus died suffering. Like we should expect, and it says be compassionate and humble. It's like we are not the ones that get to grab any of those gifts. God can give them, but we are, Jesus, in Philippians, it says, you know, he had the right to be, you know, he was enthroned in heaven. I should probably just read it because otherwise I'm going to mess it up. It says, your attitude should be the same as that of Christ Jesus, who being in the very nature of God, did not consider equality with God something to be grasped, but made himself nothing, taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness, and being found in the appearance as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient to death, even death on the cross. So it's like, I feel like we can only do the things Jesus asks in that way, and trust that the Lord will, right? In 1 Peter, it said, he entrusted himself to God who judges justly. Right? Instead of like me being the judge of how people should treat me, or how I should suffer or not suffer, or what I should expect from people or not expect from people. I put all of that aside, and I say, no, Lord, you will make them right. I just have to do my part in doing what's right. You know? Like, like, I can't make them right. It actually doesn't ever work. Like, it never works to try and make someone right, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, that's so true. That's so true. And this is good because it shows you, like, you're responsible for yourself.
Yeah. That's it.
That's it.
And who do you answer to?
Right.
Yeah.
You answer to God.
God. Whatever he says, we do, you know? And we don't make our, like, justifications or emotions get involved in it.
In the midst of being violated, brutalized, in the middle of being executed by the people that he was sent here to save, he instead doesn't insult them or, choose to retaliate or anything like that. He asks for forgiveness from the Father.
The blessing.
Yeah.
He's literally covering those people.
Yeah.
With a blessing.
Yeah.
While they're killing him.
Yeah.
It's like the worst kind of insult, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what it says in 1 Peter in that section above. It's like he entrusted himself to the one who judges justly, and he didn't say a word. He didn't retaliate. Could we do that? I don't know. I mean, I think we can. I think he calls us to it because he thinks we're capable
of it.
And I think it's a mindset. He has a different attitude. He has a different mindset of his rights and his purpose here anyways. And so he can just be like, no, I'm here for them.
So this week I had an interesting thing happen. I do some babysitting, and one of my kids that I babysit asked me if I was her mom's servant. And at first, offense, right? Like, oh, I'm not anyone's servant, but I am God's servant. And he placed me in that house for a reason, to help someone who needs help, And I had this thought of like, because I feel a bit offended, I'm tempted to almost like, like draw back a little bit. Not be such a servant in this situation.
Wow.
But what if I lean into it even more?
Wow.
Because I know that I am God's servant. And so that means that this is my assignment, and I have to do what he says. Because I know he put me here.
Well, you will be unhappy in this scenario if you try and gain some sort of
power
when you are in a position of servanthood, and that's an honor that God calls us to be a servant to the people around us, right? Like, and I write that in my journal like at least once a month, like, I am a servant to my house and my husband. I am a servant to my children. Because if I go into my day, which happens all the time, and I have to write it all the time, if I go into my day thinking I need to be served or that I have rights, servants don't have rights. They don't have rights. None. And like, if I go into a house saying I have rights, I will be consistently angry. It's for our good that God wants us to take our position with joy and gratitude, which is so hard to do when it's like, but I have all these things I really want to do. These are all the things, and you are getting in the way of them, or or you're offending me in some way, But it's like, if we can have the mind of Christ, your attitude, let your attitude be the same as Christ, who, even though he was God, and he could have been like, I know more than you.
Right.
I could, like, Satan tempts him, and he's like, why don't you just call on God to get you this bread from this stone, And he's like, instead of being like, I can, watch me, he didn't take that power. He let God give him what God was going to give him in God's timing, which is the highest seat in heaven.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Eternal glory. But it took servanthood on earth. And having a heart that loved people who treated him terribly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Treated him terribly. Like, literally put him on a cross. And he could have been like, I can blast you all cross right now. Yeah. Right? Like, I could destroy everything. Yeah. Yeah. He even said at one point, don't you think I could call down my Father and he would send 12 legions of angels to destroy you? He literally said that at one point. But he didn't do it,
Yeah.
But he has that power, and yet he chose to be a servant.
Self-control. Yeah. I actually want to read it. The temptation of Jesus. So Matthew 4:1-11. Then Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. After he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry. Then the tempter approached him and said, if you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become bread. He answered, it is written, man must not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God. Then the devil took him to the holy city, had him stand on the pinnacle of the temple, and said to him, if you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, He will give his angels orders concerning you, and they will support you with their hands, so that you will not strike your foot against a stone." Jesus told him, "It is also written, 'Do not test the Lord your God.'" Again, the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their splendor. And he said to him, "I will give you all these things if you will fall down and worship me." Then Jesus told him, "Go away, Satan, for it is written, 'Worship the Lord your God and serve only him.'" Then the devil left him, and angels came and began to serve him. So it doesn't say it here, but actually in another, I think it's probably in Luke, or it might be in a different translation. I think it's in Luke. At the end, it says that the devil left him until an opportune time.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah, which I think is so key because, the enemy is so crafty. At the beginning, he tempts Jesus when he's hungry.
So hungry.
When you are depleted of something, you really want it, the enemy will provide just a little something to, or the false, I don't even think he can provide it. He just, you know what I mean?
He's promising a false promise.
False promise. But the timing of it, I think, is something that we have to pay attention to. When we really want something or we're really hungry for something, it doesn't have to be food.
Wow.
That's probably when the enemy will come to you and try to tempt you with something that is not actually going to fulfill you.
I've heard this a lot, where people say, "God opened the door. I wanted this thing, and look, he brought it." And I just regularly in my heart, I go, how do you know that's God? Like, what?
Yeah.
And I think it's like this desiring the Lord more than the thing. Can you do you? Do you? Because Jesus did. He was clear in his mission. He knew it wasn't his time. And he was willing to say no to that food.
Yeah.
That he was perfectly he told the truth. I can do that. The devil said, you can do this. But it wasn't right. And it wasn't the right time. And so, I just think, I feel like I hear that a lot. And I'm like, I don't know if that's what that meant.
Right.
Right. I don't know if that actually... Because the devil obviously can also bring things in front of your face that look good. And so it's I just think being careful to just grab the thing because you want it and it came.
Yeah.
It's well, maybe that's not the right one.
Right.
Or the right job, the right relationship, the right whatever. It's
right.
The right food. I don't know.
Designer items, designer bags, okay? There are dupes of designer items. There are fake designer items, and they look almost identical. But I saw a photo online the other day of this shoe. It was maybe a certain designer stiletto, right? And they were if you look super closely at the stitching in the back heel, you can tell a fake from a real designer shoe.
Yeah.
And I think we have to be that way in terms of the things that God, or maybe not God, brings our way, and look very closely, because I think a real thing and a fake thing can look almost identical if you don't look very closely. So I wanted Rachel and I to talk a bit about what scripture the scripture. It's Luke 11, 1 through 4, but specifically number 3, which is give us each day our daily bread. I think Rachel and I have experienced this scripture obviously in different ways, but I feel like I have experienced what it means to live on daily bread financially and in other ways too. And I don't think it's a particularly enjoyable or desirable process to go through to understand what it means to live day by day, and not have plenty, and not have a safety net, and not have plan B if plan A falls through. I don't think that's necessarily something that someone would ask for or a trial they'd ask for. But I do think that with that, you gain perseverance, patience, faith. And, faith is so big in the life of Jesus. Like, oh my gosh, I was just thinking about the woman who was bleeding for 12 years and how she was like, if I just touch the hem of Jesus's garment, I will be clean. I'll be healed of this illness. And she does it. She touches the hem of his garment, and then she's healed. And Jesus turns around, calls her daughter, and says, it's not the hem of his garment that healed her, but it was in fact her faith that healed her. And so I feel like if there's anything that can be gained from this series, it's faith, and if you're put in a position that you don't necessarily want to be in, think of it as an opportunity to gain faith.
The thing about God is that he's faithful. He doesn't give us those opportunities and then we're supposed to muster through them so that we have faith. The faith is real. It's not fabricated in our minds. Like it's I actually believe this. I actually believe it because I've seen it or because he's given me some ability to believe this without seeing it. It's a gift from the Lord, right? Like faith is a gift from the Lord. And when we go through those trials, the cool thing is he shows faithfulness. That's what gains our faith. That's what gives us more faith, is that I can look back and go, my God's faithful. Like I was listening to this song. I'm so into the song. Is my God can't lose. Win, win, win. Like that's all he does. And it's like that guy can say that because he's seen it.
Right.
And if we haven't seen it, we can read the word and see it.
Yeah. And
he will give us the faith if we're seeking him.
Absolutely.
To believe the things he's done. But also, like, we'll have to, the hardest step is the first one. And then it's like, you see how God was faithful. And then you start getting a bank account. You start getting a bank account of things, deposits of things that he's done that give you faith for this next thing that's just a little bigger.
Oh, I like that.
Just needs a little more.
I
So
like
you
that.
draw on that bank account of like what he's done, which he shares all the time about, remember in the Old Testament, remember what I've done and tell it to your kids what I've done. It's because we have these bank accounts from generations past, from the word, from our own life, that will get us through that thing. Yeah. So that we can step out in faith. Yeah. We can turn down the job, like turn down the thing when we know in our heart it's wrong, or like we know in our heart that that's not for us right now. We can turn it down because we've seen what he's done. And we don't have to get all worked up that it's the only one ever. You know what I mean? Yeah. So anyway,
good.
I'm thinking about our story and like how can I share?
Yes, please.
On this podcast.
Yeah.
How I was like, I really wanted to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had asked me, and then I felt like this in my heart, like ugly. Like I was being ugly. Like I was like, oh, that's cool. Like people want, you want to hear from me, And I didn't like that. And I felt like the Lord was like, not right now, Rachel. Like, you need to work on you. Like, that's not a good thing to bring to Aaliyah's space, And so you had texted me and you were like, just pray about it, take your time. I was like, no, I want to do it, like I want to do it. Yeah. And I thought, I was in that moment of like, only opportunity to be seen and known. You know what I mean? Or to like, for like the idea of fame or the idea of like, anyway. And God was like, no, like, it's not about you, first of all. Wow. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so he said that to me, and so then I had to text you, which was so hard, because I'm like, what if, like, I lose a friend? Or what if, I offend? Or, like, she doesn't see where I'm coming from, whatever, And so then I'm, again, faithless. Right. Yeah. And I'm just like, but I know I have to, because he said so. Right. So I take that stance when I don't have faith. Yeah. I'm like, because he said so. And so I did it, in hope. And then your response was like mind-blowing to me. Like, just like, I actually need to work on this thing, and maybe the Lord's trying to say this to me. And you saw it from your own lens, of your own perspective, and there was healing there for you.
Yeah.
And like, God wanted to build our friendship.
Yeah.
He didn't want to take it away.
Right.
I just feel like that's just like, you know, and so then I draw on that when I feel like the Lord's like convicting me to say something to someone.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I was so scared with Aaliyah to text that.
Yeah.
And yet he was so good.
Yeah.
And so I can draw on that, and that builds my faith.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, I'm so glad. And I even see how your saying no, your obedience and saying no actually led to like this really, I think it just made things even better.
Yeah.
You know, because then we started talking on a weekly basis, which we hadn't
In years.
We hadn't talked, you know what I mean? So we're able to go into this with like a deeper friendship than if we would have done it months ago.
Yeah.
You know, that wouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
And so it just like made it even richer, in my opinion. And it adds to the study, you know what I mean, too. And so I feel like God just layered blessings on the obedience.
Yeah.
And he had something to share with you. He also had something to share with me. I felt like my life wasn't fully reflecting what I was putting out there online on my podcast.
Yeah.
You know, I was willing to kind of compromise a little bit in my life, and I felt like God was like trying to show me like your life has to match what you're like preaching to other people, you know. And I had a decision to make, and I kind of felt like he was like, if you don't choose this thing, your podcast will suffer. Like, it will be taken from you, you know? It's not going to have the blessing that it could have. But, and so I thankfully cared about it so much that I was like, yeah, that other thing, gotta go.
Yeah.
You know?
And be obedient in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he does layer the blessing. It's funny because we think we can get the thing without obedience, but it will die. And maybe we will lose our soul. Right? Like, maybe we'll still have the podcast, or we'll have a good job that, you know, I knew the Lord didn't want me to do that, but I'm doing it, and I'm getting money, but I lost my soul. I actually can't hear the Lord anymore because I'm not obeying. You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so I still get the thing, but it loses its life. It's a dead thing. When I draw on that scenario, I can be like, okay, my projection of what's going to happen when I obey the Lord is probably wrong. God will bless obedience. You know? He loves to bless obedience. He's a good father. And he's faithful. And so then we can be like, he's not asking us for faith and not being like, what? He wants us to trust him when he's terrible? Like, no. That's not who he is. That's the whole point.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So anyway,
yeah.
And then it just builds over time. And then we have harder, bigger challenges. And we're like, do I still, can I, because he said so, you know? Can I listen to him?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. It's going back to that because he said so.
Yeah. And then seeing it play out all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was curious, do we embrace living, living by God's daily bread, or do we still struggle against it? My answer is very easy. I still struggle against it. Just honestly. I think I have become a little bit more like, okay, this is my life, you know? And also what God has provided for me has been way better than what I could have provided for myself. Like, I was like, for the longest time, I was like, I must go back to 9 to 5. I cannot live like this. I hate having a sporadic paycheck. I just can't stand it. Yeah, I felt like I just needed to go back, and I was desperate. I was applying, Amazon, even Starbucks. Starbucks rejected me, I think 3 or 4 times. Okay.
Rejected you?
Rejected me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Starbucks rejected me. And which told me, like, okay, maybe this is a sign of some kind, because kind of, never, I'm not going to say that.
It's like, you should be able to get a job at Starbucks.
Sorry, yeah. I was going to say, like, I'm kind of, I was like, come on.
I'm qualified.
Yeah, I feel qualified to make coffee, okay?
Yes.
So I was like, maybe this is a sign, right? But the cool thing is that God has provided these, like, really great opportunities where I'm getting paid in a very, like, creative ways. Yeah. Like, I never thought I'd be babysitting again at 28, okay? But it is preparing me for the things that I've asked him for. I've asked for family. House sitting, I've asked for a home of my own.
Whoa.
I'm getting flown to Hawaii to take care of someone's mother-in-law. Practice.
God is preparing you.
Practice.
So good.
You want it?
He's
practice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. And they're relational jobs.
Yes.
They are relational. You are making an impact on human beings' lives. Yeah. We should just talk about that after this, because I could talk about that forever. But like, yes.
Yeah.
And there are things that matter eternally.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, not that maybe another job wouldn't, a 9-to-5 wouldn't, but if you were pursuing it for the paycheck or for the stability, that really is an illusion. Like, it wouldn't be, maybe you wouldn't be doing it able to see it in a relational way as much. You know, it'd be like, you'd have rights, you know, versus being like the Lord's to be used in all these areas where he's obviously, I mean, just listen, I get to talk to you every week and hear how the Lord's obviously providing for you. Yeah. Putting these things in your life that I'm like, who gets this many calls? You know, like, like it's so cool. And it's relational and it's practice. Yeah. It's good. I was 23 or 24 and a nanny, and people would be like, are you ever going to get a real job? And I'm like, this is the realest job there is. I am raising human beings. Yeah. And now, I think that's Rachel, a pretty good job. Yeah. And now you're a mom of 5. Yeah. You had so much practice. I had so much practice. For 5 years of practice. Yeah. And I could have done marketing. Yeah. I am so glad I didn't. Yeah. You know? Yeah. Like, I was able to have relationships and have an influence. Absolutely. You know? And, absolutely. Yeah. And it was so clear how to love in those scenarios, which other jobs you can totally do the same. Right. But just the amount of influence a babysitter or nanny has on a life, or a person who's taking care of someone's beloved family member. Like, you have influence on that woman and on her family. You know? Yeah, if you want it. Yeah. Yeah. You know? Yeah. Yeah. That's good if you want it. Yeah. Well, with that, we're going to say goodbye. Yeah. And thank you for being here. And we just hope that you have a blessed day and a blessed week. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye. We did it. Oh, you silly.